Hi, Paul.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah,
How are you finding Brazil so far?
much better than the UK, innit? As I flew here and I started my travel on Monday and had to scrape the car, had to scrape the snow off the car. And now I'm in Brazil, no snow, sun, sea, sand. So much better than what's happening in the UK at the moment.
It's moments like that that make you appreciate the job choice you went for, right?
100%. See if I could see my careers advisor in there. Like, oh, I'd love to speak to them. But you're 100% right. It's opportunities you get, and a lot of people are saying, what about coming into the Lions Den, meaning coming to Brazil, fighting a Brazilian? It's difficult. The crowd get behind their own and also be supporting Johnny Walker, but as long as you put in a performance, like, they'll get behind you as you're walking out the octagon. So that's what I'm looking to do. Have the crowd hating me as I'm getting in, and having them eating out the palm of my hand as I'm leaving.
So what do you make of his career? It's like he started off with such a sort of massive rise, and then he's had a few starters. What do you make of his career and him as a fighter?
Great athlete, just size, muscle, all that kind of stuff that goes along with being an athlete. But when you start working your ways up the rankings and you're going up against guys who are legitimate mixed martial artists, then knocking people out becomes a lot harder. When we used to see him knocking people out, and as you say, they rose to fame very, very quickly. There was talk of him fighting John Jones, and all of a sudden, that's just pulled away. The further you go on up this top 10, the harder it is to knock people out, the harder it is to submit people. In my opinion, do I believe that Johnny Walker could knock me out? Yes, he could knock me out. Like, it's the same as MD in this division, can knock MD out when the second's right. Do I believe right now that my skill set is much higher than his? I do, and I believe that as long as I stay technically good, don't make me any slip-ups, then I'll be able to drag him to the mat and take him into deep water, and then from that, get that submission.
He did say that he was more than willing to test his jiu-jitsu against yours, and said that maybe he would even go for a takedown and get you down and grapple. Would you enjoy that?
You know, it would make my job a hell of a lot easier than having to drag him to the mat. As I said, big unit, takes a lot of energy to get him there. But if he wants to shoot in, take me down, I'd welcome that, because it doesn't work out very well for MD that's done that before.
What are the odds that you and Jamal Hill dance with each other after the fights?
It's 100%. You know, I've got Jamal Hill taking this victory because not only does it help my career, like, I like Jamal Hill as an athlete and as an MMA fighter, and I think it does wonders for the sport. He's an exciting character, crazy power in the hands, but that also leads to that not looking past Johnny Walker, but it leads to that opportunity to have a run back of that fight. Mm-hmm. And it gets me one step closer to the title. You know, the two guys who are unbeaten in the top 10 in the light heavyweight division have only got losses to me, meaning Ankalaev, who recently fought for the title, and Jamal Hill. So maybe I get a wee call up soon, but I need to first and foremost do the business on Saturday night against Johnny Walker. But it can't just be a victory. It has to be a performance. It has to show the levels of my skill, the new acquired striking skill, the lethal jiu-jitsu and my wrestling, and show that I'm able to hang with a guy like Johnny Walker.
How do you break down the main event on Saturday?
It comes down to that old bull, young buck. You know, we've got the old bull, and I'm not writing off Glover because he's that bit older, but I just believe that Jamal is young, hungry. He's got that death touch. When he touches people, they just fall asleep. And I believe that as long as he can stop these takedowns, heavy sprawls, which I believe he can, because I've seen he's been working with Anthony Smith, heavy sprawls, and stop Glover from dragging him to the mat, I think this is an exciting fight for MD. Like, any division, like, this is one of the most exciting fights. You know, last year we had one of the great fights between Glover and Prohaska, and I think this might be very, very similar to that. I think it's going to be two of them, like, rock'em sock'em robots.
Coming in here, you know, into enemy territory in a sense, will this feel like the biggest fight of your career when you go in there and fight on Saturday?
Every single fight that I have, I tip it is the biggest fight in my career, because it is. I'm at a point where a win can take you in a different direction and a loss takes you in a different one. So every single fight is the biggest fight in my career, because I know if I beat Johnny Walker, then there's an opportunity just around the corner in London, and then I know if I had victory there, there's an opportunity for a title shot. I'm 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. I was 2 years unbeaten. I think it was 6 wins I had in my last 7 fights, or 6 wins, a draw, whatever it was. I'm so close to getting gold and to be another UK champion and be the first Scottish champion. That's what I get in this sport for. I didn't get in this sport to make money. I didn't get in this sport for anything other than memories and to become a champion.
And like you said, you wanted to start the night. Well, you're going to start the night. You know you're going to have the boos and you want to have the cheers by the end of the night. At what point do you think that that'll happen, and what will it take? Will it take heavy hits standing? Will it take the good ground game? I mean, what do you think it's going to take to win over that crowd?
I see Brazil as one of the fight capitals of the world, the home of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think you just put on a performance in that Jiu-Jitsu aspect, and you've got fans in there who appreciate it, then that'll get the crowd behind you. And I liked what you said there. We'll get boos as we come in the octagon. I'll also get boos once I leave the octagon as well, but it'll be with Jamal Hill.
Not going to do a shoey or anything like that?
No, I do like the fact that fans after it give you just hand you beer. And coming from Scotland, free beer's a good thing. So I'm looking forward to a few beers and then getting home to Scotland and getting some of that snow.
And like you said, I think most people, when they think of you, they think that at some point the fight's going to work its way to the ground. Is there any pressure, or is there ever any point in a fight where you almost just want to stand up just so you can test your skills against somebody that's, well known as a striker?
Yep, so I started working with a new striking coach, James Doolan, in a new gym. And one of the things that he did was he went back to the scratch with regards to striking, and his whole thing was to let's start from the bottom and build our way up. We know we've got good jiu-jitsu, we know we've got good wrestling, we just need to bridge the gap in that striking area. And I believe the striking is the last piece of the cog that will make the whole thing turn, and then it will get me closer to that title. So I do want to showcase my stand-up, but I need to remember it got me to the dance, and what got me to the dance was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So a victory, Saturday night, Jiu-Jitsu, have the crowd behind Paul Craig, and then let's look forward to what happens next in 2023.
I imagine that Johnny Walker is a weird guy to prepare for, especially in the striking area. Was it harder to find someone to mimic his style in the striking area?
Yeah, he has got a very unorthodox striking style. It's wild, he'll swing an elbow and then he'll throw something else off the back of that. I don't think you need to try and incorporate this style into your camp. I think what you need to do is just make sure that everything I'm doing is correct. So make sure the hands are nice and tight, make sure the shots are nice and crisp, and the shots, you can see everything that's coming, because if you see everything that's coming, then having wild striking isn't going to make a blind bit of difference. I also seen that he was in a boxing gym trying to improve his striking, and I think that's a great thing for development of Johnny Walker, because you're always looking to develop. But I think if you coach what got him to the dance, I came to the dance with jiu-jitsu, he came to the dance with just crazy power and crazy shots. If you try and coach that out of him, then I think you might be missing a trick with him. I think you need to try and incorporate his wicked style with some good crisp shots. And I think if I was his coach, that's what I'd be trying to do. I wouldn't be trying to stop him from doing that. I'd be getting him to lean into it even more.
You fought once in Brazil, and I remember you weren't happy after the fight. You thought you won because it was a draw against Shogun.
Yep.
Does that change the way you come into this fight, like making your best to avoid going to a decision against a Brazilian Brazil?
See, that fight, when I watched that back, and that first round I came out hot, and I'm swinging shots and I'm landing heavy. Shogun Hua's face gets marked up very, very quickly. And then all Shogun Hua does for the next 2 rounds is stop me from doing my game plan. Now, he doesn't incorporate his game plan, he doesn't try to finish me, he doesn't try to stop me, doesn't land any heavy shots. And it resulted in a draw. And when I watched the fight back, I can see why it resulted as a draw. He was more time on top, more control, all these kind of things that score highly in the judges' eyes. But that was an experience for me, to know that you can't let it go to the judges, because even in your heart, if you know, because at that time I believed that I had won that very, very comfortably. So I think what you need to do as a fighter is don't let the judges make that decision for you. You make a decision. If you think you can win this, then win it. One of the best examples of that was, if you watch Leon Edwards, that head kick knockout, his corner come in and tell him, listen, you're down, you're out, let's go for it. Let's go out in our shield. I think that's what a good corner team does, and I think that's what you need to do. You need to throw caution to the wind to get the victory. That's what I'm going to be doing on Saturday night.
Is it weird for you? A final one for me. Is it weird for you to see Jamal Hill fighting for the title, considering that you just beat him like 18 months ago?
It wasn't up until you said that. No, you know, I'm happy for Jamal. He's on a much better tear than I was, and he's much more. If you watch him as a fighter, he's a wee bit more exciting than the Paul Craig Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. As an MMA fan, the everyday lame fan wants to see knockouts, wants to see blood, sweat, and tears through strikes. The more competent fan of MMA, UFC, likes to see the whole aspect, you know, the grappling, these exchanges. But I do understand why Jamal's got that title shot, because he's a much more exciting fighter than me. And I wish he gets the title on Saturday. And I know his skill set that he's got the opportunity to do this.
Well, you and Shogun have some history inside the octagon.
Yep.
Any words about the farewell of such a legend?
I know it's. I wanted to be his last fight. You know, we had that draw. There was some unfinished business. We both went on to Fight Island and both got victories there. And then we sorted out the Las Vegas card where it was myself and him, and I beat him in under 2 rounds. And I was like, I'll be the last fight in his contract. If MD searches up Shogun Hua, I'll say his last fight was Paul Craig, victory over Shogun. And then he's went on and he's had a few ups and downs. And it's one of these things, as a farewell fight. It's easy to say it. It's harder to do when you look at people like Anderson Silva, walks away for the UFC, starts doing a bit of boxing and getting a bit of success, and then has we could say a boxing match. He has a bout and loses. And does it tarnish his record? Does it tarnish him as an MMA athlete? Probably not. But what it does is it's always that next win. You're always looking to get back out there and get a victory. So it's hard as fighters because we don't know when to stop, and you need to have a good team round about you to tell you, right, enough's enough. It's time to retire. You've done enough. So I hope that he stays retired, but it's hard for fighters to stay retired.
Also, you've talked about the admiration you have for Demian Maia, even with your daughter's name.
Yep. So I heard that Demian Maia is commentating for the Brazilian comms, which is kind of cool. I never had the confidence to tell him any time I've met him. I've met him like 3 or 4 times, and we've shared food together. We've had great conversations. Just never had the confidence to tell a guy that you respect so much that you've named your daughter after him. So it's kind of cool to have him commentating one of my fights and hear what he's going to say about my style of jiu-jitsu.
Paul, I want to know if you have any preference about the winner of the main event on this Saturday. Because earlier today, Jamal said that you two bump each other outside and said that you should run it back again. And maybe if Jamal wins his fight and you win yours, there could be a rematch and with the title on the line.
Yep. I've never had much interaction with Glover, but he's a stable part of the UFC and he has been for many years. Get nothing but massive amounts of respect for him. Whereas Jamal Hill, I've had loads of contact with him, spoke to him loads of time, we've partied, we've had dance-offs in the octagon, we've had dance-offs in the nightclub, we've drank whiskey together. So I've got nothing but respect for Jamal and the way he fights and the exciting fights that he puts on. So as a fan, and I want to see Jamal win, because if Jamal wins, then I can cash in that queue jump slip. You know, when you see the guys and you're queuing at Disneyland and people are just walking past you and you're like, how's he getting in front of me? Because he's got a queue jump and you don't. So I'm definitely going to be cashing in that if Jamal Hill gets that victory. And I can't see it going any other way than Jamal Hill landing some shots. Because Jamal Hill's one of these guys where he doesn't have to load up. He doesn't have to put everything into these shots to make them count. He just has to touch you. And if he touches you, you're taking a nap. He gets the victory, I get the victory, and then we both look at sorting out a rematch. That would be the ideal situation. In my world, the UFC has different plans, and the UFC have a different path. And they already have matches made in their head what they would like to happen. So that's what I would love to happen, but we just need to wait and see what happens. But first and foremost, it's all about victory on Saturday night in a performance.
Awesome. And I asked the same question to Johnny Walker. If you get a win, which would be the perfect celebration here in Rio on Saturday night?
If I get the victory, it must be the worm, and the worm without blowing my shoulder out.
Okay, thank you.